All right, everybody. How you doing? It's Anthony Bowling, and it's chasing gazillions. Ain't the same as making millions.
Ain't the same as making millions.
Mondays here with Fernando's not here, as you know. Fernando is out like with Waldo. We're looking for Fernando, my partner. But the Chasing Gazillion show, as you all know, is an opportunity for us to come to you and bring to you here, the residents and local people here in DC, opportunity to hear about matters that are important to you. And today's guest, we have a good one. We have Valario VJ Johnson, who's the next Ward 7 council member, who's going to come and share with you information about the upcoming election that's going to take place June 4th. He's going to talk to you about early voting, but also he is on fire about this past weekend. He was involved in a couple of forums, and he really needs for you to hear some things. But before we start there, where we want to start first is give you a quick introduction from Valario VJ Johnson and his origins.
My name is Valario VJ Johnson, your next Ward 7 council member running as a Democrat in the June 4th primary. And I'm running for not just your vote, but for your heart, your support, and to bring the changes to you that you need and you deserve as Ward 7 and District of Columbia residents. I'm here today to tell you a story. I used to live on the 2900 block of Nelson Place. Way before I had a title, way before I knew anything about government, I lived behind a liquor store and a smelly seafood restaurant. And boy, those summers were tough, living behind a seafood restaurant. The issue was trash, litter. The people at that time didn't know to fight and use government resources to maintain the aesthetics of their neighborhood. One of the things that I started off doing was getting the young people to take pride in their community. At that time, I was working with high school students. I started off in the classroom, and month after month after month, we shut down the street. We had community block parties. We made sure that everybody understood that this was our block, and we took pride in our block. And we got people infected with keeping their neighborhood clean. I started to learn how government works. We started to get more resources into the community. We are making Ward 7 by building bridges and connecting people to what they need and want to access the high quality of life that they are so entitled to and deserve. And all you have to do is join, help, vote, support, and let us come see you on your block. Vote Valario VJ Johnson, June 4th, and we'll make a difference together. Vote VJ!
All right, good stuff. Good stuff there. I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's bring VJ back here to the center. So that's your origin story, Valario. That's how you got started, and now we come forward here. We're here now, and tell us about the campaign. Tell us how things are going. Tell us, as the public, as Joe Public, what should we be listening for? What aren't we hearing?
What? Wow, what should the people be listening for? Wow. What aren't the people saying? What are the candidates not saying? Well, they're not saying a lot. They could say more, but I guess they're not required to say more because these forums don't press them. They don't press them on the issues. And one of the things that we've been able to do during this forum season, we haven't even had a debate yet, but during this forum season, we have been able to distinguish ourselves by being upfront, faster, sooner about the issues that people care about, giving concrete, concise answers to the questions as they are asked that people know and feel is the right answer because it's pragmatic. They can see it.
Mm-hmm.
They can see the result,
And the reason why I'm able to connect them to my ability to deliver future results is because I can point to a direct benefit for them with past results. And as I remind people, the best indicator of future success is past performance. And I let it be known that 2 decades plus of service, getting it done for the Ward 7 resident across the board, and it's undisputable. I have yet to experience anyone challenge my record of service, of results, of getting things done. I'll give you a funny example. I'm not going to say no names. If you watch the debates on Saturday.
Okay, it's my show, man. You free to say names on my show.
Oh, well, one candidate in particular tried to call me out about, my intelligence and how I wasn't quite ready for the job, trying to distinguish themselves as being the one that was ready for the job. And, I looked at them and I said, hey, didn't I give you a ride over here from the first forum to the second forum? And they was like, no, you ain't give me a ride. Your friend gave me a ride. There you go. Building bridges, connecting people to what they need and want. And the whole audience just erupted in laughter. And that's that in that moment, that little 3-minute moment really just crystallizes 20 years of these folks, who are running, who don't want to acknowledge what they know to be true, is that I'm the most qualified person at delivering results for the Ward 7 resident. And it's a pretty big field, it's a pretty impressive field, a lot of accolades, a lot of education, a lot of big titles and good jobs, and people making great money, but they all struggle with how they helped the Ward 7 resident.
Well, that's an interesting point, and I'd like to stay there where you say past performance is a good indicator of future success, and you're talking about what it is you've done in comparison to in the results you've created and opportunities. There's been a lot. We've gone through a redistricting here in this ward. There's a lot more persons and people living in this ward who, quite frankly, the past 20 years, they just may be unaware of what you've done. But more importantly, why is that important? Tell us about some of the things you've delivered as a non-council person, obviously, and the impact it's had on the residents in our lives here as residents in Ward 7. And most importantly, why is that important as an attribute or skills for a council member to have those things?
All right, I think I heard a couple of things. One, we do have new residents. We have about 9,000 new residents, of which 7,000 of them can vote in a Democratic primary. Over the last 10 years plus redistricting, we probably netted about 14,000 or more. So there are a lot of people who don't know VJ, but I can point to something that they benefited from. So if we look at the new community that came as a result of redistricting in 2022, I can talk about my work with Advance DC and the RFK Fields project, because that whole community know those artificial fields over there are a community benefit, and they all benefit from that. And I just remind people, hey, that I did that, right? That was my community engagement project for Advance DC. And I go into specific details with people, and I say, hey, I took a risk for the people of Ward 6, Ward 5, Ward 7, with my service to Advance DC by internally transforming the position to not just be outward facing, not just Advance DC telling people what they want to know, but also working internally to change messaging, to build relationships, to issue grants to sports and entertainment organizations, to use the minority businesses in the community, like Sporties, which is a historical landmark for Black business. It's a food place on Benning, I think Benning and 23rd or somewhere. It's where the old KFC used to be, I know that. Across the street from Phelps, because I used to go there in high school. And more importantly, helping Events DC understand the nuances of constituency services, which they didn't understand. And the community was being pounded by Events DC's activities: football, baseball, 30,000 people for an event, Broccoli City, cannabis, National Cannabis Festival, which is coming up for 20. So I helped Events DC understand its obligation and its responsibility to reduce and minimize the negative impact of RFK Stadium, because Events DC makes the money for the city, right? It's ESA, it's RFK, it's the Carnegie, it's Ted Leonsis, it's the baseball stadium. It's downtown Gallery Place with the Capitol the Capitol Wizards building, and the convention center. So Events DC brings, before COVID, $1 billion worth of economic impact to the District of Columbia with sports and entertainment, events, conferences. So the communities around RFK, we had to work really, really hard to get them to tolerate that this is a necessary evil for the city to earn income off of sales tax, hotel tax.
Well, let's pick up right there. You're talking about economic engines, its role to the city, where we are facing $950 million. In my book, that's $1 billion budget deficit that the city is going into. And let's stay over there on that side. Talk to us about, one, your involvement in redistricting and why it's beneficial to Ward 7 residents. And then talk to us about these other plans that are coming, like RFK and other things, and why they also, as a council member, why those things would be beneficial as compared to, I've heard some other candidates suggest that they are not so beneficial. So I know that's two-pronged, and
that's a lot. That's a lot. I'll be brief with the first part. The budget is really a right sizing. We look at it in terms of the 800, depending on who you ask, $1 billion shortfall deficit, but it's just right sizing. All the money that was inflated into the local government from the federal government as a result of pandemic relief funds is gone. So we're just going back to normal. If you look at the budget over the years, it still hovers around $19, $20 billion. So it's not like it's $18 billion, right? That's a real number. It just doesn't, the local government just doesn't have the money to sustain all the programs and activities that it did while it had COVID relief dollars. So it's not as scary. It's scary, but it's not as scary. And we did a budget briefing last week. So it's different, and it's more of a right sizing. And the administration is pretty smart to look at this over the next 5 years with gradual increases in sales tax beginning in 26, which allows for everybody who touches the District of Columbia to contribute to the District of Columbia, as opposed to taxing our income or taxing our property. There's a tax on sales, which the 1 million plus people who come to the DC region every day, from the region every day, can contribute to our solvency or our budget. Redistricting just gives us political power. Ward 7 lost political power in the last redistricting. In 2010, 2011, we had 72,000 people. Now in 2024, we have 86,000 people. So that's a 14,000 person increase. And I think the majority of that is age eligible. So we are second in registered Democratic voters in the city out of all 8 wards. Before we were 7th. So that allows for the politicians who run at large, the mayor, the chairman, and the 4 at-large council member, to have to come see Ward 7 stakeholders. And they have to come to Hillcrest, right? They have to come south of Massachusetts Avenue to the communities along the Pennsylvania Avenue corridor. They now have to go to Central Ward 7, which is along the Benning East Capitol Street corridor. And they have to go to those new communities being developed along 295. And they definitely have to go to the communities west, the new communities west of the Anacostia River, Kingman Park, Rosedale, Hill East, Barney Circle. Yeah, I think that's it. Barney Circle, Rosedale, Hill East, Kingman Park.
Yeah, but as I'm hearing you talk about, quote, they, and that was about 6, the mayor and 5 other council persons at large, you're saying have to come to Ward 7. And as a new Ward 7 council member, make that live for me as Joe Public. What does that mean, they have to come? And why? What's in it for me as a resident when I'm selecting a council member that you're saying, quote, they have to come to Ward 7 now? Okay, so what? They got to come. They always come, but they always come bearing hot dogs. So what? They got to come. What does that mean to the residents in the hands of the new council member that they have to come?
Well, the last decade, they didn't have to come. Remember, Ward 7 drafted Anthony Williams. It happened right here in Hillcrest. The Civic Association, the leaders and the influencers of the Civic Association drafted Anthony Williams, put him in office. So Ward 7 produced Anthony Williams as a mayor. Marion Barry used to live in Ward 7, and he was mayor. And then Ward 7 elected Vincent Gray, right? And up until 2010, Ward 7 was producing 30% turnout in the community south of Massachusetts Avenue along the Pennsylvania Avenue corridor. Will be upwards of 40, 45, 50% turnout.
At the polls.
At the polls, like 5 out of 10 people voting, okay? Which is crazy, right? But over the last decade, Ward 7 has seen turnout at 18%. So you go from 36% to 18%. And in 2022, we were at 29%. So we've been high, we dropped low, and we're getting closer, right? So what does that mean? So when I become the council member, I have a 2-year no committee period that allows for me to build the relationships with the base of voters that elected me and all the other stakeholders who did not elect me or who got special interests or who just want good government, right, from me as the council person. I get elected, and then we go into the mayor's election. We go into the councilman chairman's election. So then we position ourselves with those folks who want to have the votes that we already produce, right? So I told you we are second in registered Democratic voters. So I think it's 47,000. So if we get 15,000, 18,000 people to turn out and to vote in this Ward 7 primary, then they say, oh no, I got to go to Ward 7 to get a little bit of that 15, 18,000 voter turnout for them Democrats, because I may be in a competitive race. So if I can count on Councilmember Johnson delivering 10, 12,000 votes to me, right, then I can go, to the other wards and see where I'm gonna get more votes from, right? And that's inside of baseball. I don't think Joe Public.
Yeah, but Joe Public does care about all these unfinished projects here, and Joe Public does want to hear about, now that you got all these votes and you got all this power and leverage, how is it going to be leveraged to Joe Public's benefit?
Well, I think the first thing we can do is visit the Capitol Gateway project. It's a complex uh, problem, but I think there's a rational, reasonable solution to it. And for people who don't know, the infamous Walmart deal, the handshake deal that Walmart was coming, and then they said they ain't coming, and it was a lawsuit, and it was no deal, and it was just whatever. That's the area we're talking about. And there's a letter of intent from Giant to go there, but Giant can't go there because the district don't own the land. And there's more, legalistic or technical stuff that needs to happen there. But to make it simple for you, for Joe Public, the city just needs to determine the fair market value of that property and buy it, and then begin to develop it. I mean, it's simple, but how to make the sausage is not as simple. But that's what needs to be done: a determination of what the value of that land on East Capitol Street, and then the district needs to commit to buying it. So if you want $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 from Councilmember Johnson, voters from Councilmember Johnson, well, you need to start making some stuff happen now.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's move some
Well,
stuff
I heard
along.
that. Well, speaking of moving along, let's see if we can't move some other things along here. And I noticed that we have some of your other teammates here. Here I see we have, and I'll bring her up here to the screen. Did I bring her in? Maybe I'll bring her in that way. Yes.
Khadijah Barkley.
Hello, everybody.
We see Miss Khadijah Barkley here. I understand she is the director of your communications committee, and all the communication that flows in and out and through your organization, your campaign is run by her. Welcome to the show, Khadijah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's a handler, but she's become more of a voice.
That's right. Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. And in fact, we're going to have her after this next segment. We're going to have her ask a question. Speaking of segment, again, if you don't mind, this is Anthony Bowling. Chasing gazillions ain't the same as making millions. Hanging out with the Anthony Bowling Group, your local residential commercial real estate professional for all your needs. Hey, by the way, shameless plug. I just closed the transaction here this week, leasing out retail space on behalf of New Samaritan Baptist Church at 1100 Florida Avenue. We had a retail space there at 1000 Florida Avenue that we just leased out to a yoga studio. That's going to be Bright Bear DC LLC Yoga. That's Erica Fritz, who we represented and helped. That's going into that location there at West Virginia and Florida Avenue. So you want to get your back stretched out and yoga. That's coming soon. Okay.
Nice.
That's enough on that shameless plug. Well, it's my show. I get to do this. Okay. So.
Hey, look, I get to play.
Here you go.
Because retiring, because of budgeting, created a different strategy in the police department, which made certain crimes less criminal, made other crimes something that we didn't want to pay attention to. And it created a sense of lax, and things got out of hand. We got to talk about the impact of the pandemic. We have to talk about family destabilization. We have to talk about the lack of accountabilities in our school and holding children and students accountable for their behavior in the classroom. We have to tighten up. We have to be tough on crimes, big and small, until we get everybody back in order on the same page.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I see we got a question in the chat. And we're going to hold off on this one. It's about the Skyland development. We're going to go. Hold on. It says Skyland development, the neighborhood is being plagued with crime. The shoe in the city. Okay. Well, you know what? This might be related. Hold on to your question, Khadijah. Let me take this one from the chat. We're always excited when you come in on the chat here. Here's the question. You were just there a moment ago, VJ, speaking at a forum about youth, crime, police. And the question is related. With the Skyland development, the neighborhood is being plagued by crime. The Shoe City and the Rainbow recently closed. As a council member, how will residents feel safe to shop in their neighborhood?
Well, what I've done doing this forum season, doing this campaign, I like these questions. I have to decouple this question because it speaks to it speaks to something that I'm always talking about: how people feel when they're outside their homes. Right. This is a question about safety, security. How can a resident feel secure when they're going to shop, when they're going to spend money? So the beautiful part about that is that you can spend money in your local community. Okay. The beautiful part about that question, as I decouple it, is that we have 2 shopping centers in Hillcrest, right? Skyland Town Center is one, and the young lady referenced the Rainbow in the Shoe City. That's Good Hope Marketplace. And shameful plug, right? We got licensed to do that. I used to be the ANC commissioner for 7B05, where the Good Hope Marketplace exists. And I got to work with the owners and property managers of the Good Hope Marketplace to encourage them to invest in the Safeway, because at one time Safeway was threatening to pull out. Okay. So I want to talk about the $2.2 million invested in that Safeway. Now, as a native, both of these shopping centers are familiar to me. I used to go with my grandmother to the Skyland when the discount mart was to get clothes. Not a proud moment, but the joy was being with my grandmother. We go to CVS, we go to the post office, and then we would go get the honey barbecue wings from the KFC that's no longer there. And the most satisfying experience of shopping in that old town center was the honey barbecue wings from the KFC. Or getting on the W4 or W6, whatever, and the W8, W6, and going to the post office or going to the CVS to get medicine for my grandmother. Or my father going across the street to the Sears, right, to get his car fixed. All right, all that said, this is why they vote for VJ. This is why he is right for the councilman, because he understands historical context. And the transformation of both of those shopping centers was to attack crime. We changed the Skyland Development Town Center to attack crime, to change the face of the community, to capture the $300 million that was seeping into other communities. So now, as the council member, I do want to do something about that. While I was the ANC commissioner for 7B05, I motioned and got a committee for economic development passed. I am no longer commissioner, so I no longer have control of that. But one of the things that I initiated is that we as community folks should have a committee, advisory committee of sort, that is in relationship with these owners of these shopping centers to what? Anthony, you'll like this. Pay attention to the leases.
Yes.
Every storefront has a lease. And if we as a community are paying attention to the leasing schedule, we can become active contributors to what we want to see in our community. Not a lot of Black-owned businesses in either one of those shopping centers. The Tropical Smoothie is one of the ones that come to my head that's Black-owned. But you know where all the Black-owned businesses are? On the 2900 block of Minnesota Avenue, where I used to live on the 2900 block of Nelson Place, where the origin story is, because that is the highest concentration of minority, Black, and women-owned businesses in all of Ward 7. And guess who can have a shameful plug in influencing that to happen? Your next councilman. So that's just what 2 decades of service looks like. I don't do all of this work by myself, but I am bold and courageous to try to do things differently. And you want me as your council member because I'm in the rooms, I'm at the table, I have the relationships to say, hey, we should think about this differently, right? And that's why you want a person like me who's bigger, better, bolder, because if I'm at the table, right, I can make sure that you won't be on the menu, right? And right now, Ward 7 is on the menu. There's a number of reasons for that. And we're not getting our fair share of the city's economic boon over the last decade. But at the moment I get down there, that's all going to change.
Excellent, excellent. We are coming up to the bottom of the hour here. Ms. Barkley, I know that you had your candidate out at an all-women's forum also over the weekend. Women play a great role here in our city and our businesses and all. Is there, do you have a question? Not necessarily about women. All that was like a plug on women, but is there a question that you have for the next council member?
Yeah, so I have been really enjoying the campaign trail. I've gone to pretty much all, I want to say at least, 80 to 90% of the forums that these special interest groups have put on. And I guess one thing that comes to mind is, whether or not we will have an actual debate. And the reason that I'm asking that question is because we were at a forum the other day and one of the other candidates asked, so how many people in this audience are still undecided? There were many people that were still undecided, and we've been campaigning. I mean, some people have been campaigning since September. We got in the race in the summertime, we got in the race in January. There's a couple people have fallen off, but there's still a lot of people. And I feel like a debate will be where you can really have a conversation about the issues. And of course, I'm biased, but you will really be able to shine. But everything that we're receiving is a forum. Like everything's a forum where you answer the same questions and there's not an opportunity for you to really, share your record and more importantly, ask questions of the candidate's record that may not be the same as your 20-year, career here in making a difference for Ward 7.
Well, thank you so much, Khadijah, for that. I'm going to let you have not the last word because it's my show. I'm always going to have the last word. But VJ, talk on that subject about why Joe Public, why should I care about the information that's being distributed through a forum versus a debate? I mean, is there really a difference? And if there is, why should it matter? Why should I care as the public? What am I being harmed as the public by not having a debate? What am I not getting?
There is potential harm. You may not know who the candidate really is. The beautiful thing about me having 2+ decades, everybody know me, right? You may have your feelings about me. I may be polarizing on an issue. I may not have supported your issue. I may have supported another issue, but DJ, right? But we have a number of candidates who are not readily known. And we have some who just came out of nowhere using public financing. Their campaigns are being subsidized by the government and people don't know them. I mean, the communities that they represent, people question if they live there, how long they've lived there, what they've done for their individual communities. And so you don't have that problem with me. I'm the president of the Hillcrest Community Civic Association. No one slides in and becomes the president of the Hillcrest Civic Association without being vetted and known and contributory, right? Like I've been doing this work in Hillcrest since 2015, and I've been a financial member of the Civic Association since 2005 or 6, right? So I'm known, but there are a lot of other people who are not known. And the debate allows for people to question whatever they are putting forward. In the forum, you can just say anything and no one's going to question. It's like, oh yeah, I caught 1,000 fish. You go fishing, right? It's the fish.
I wrote some legislation that brought tens of millions of dollars to Ward 7 while I was campaigning to be a council person, somebody in Ward 8. Yeah. Okay, like that. You mean like that?
We got a lot of people saying a lot of things, and we don't have the ability to check them in the forum. And it requires you, Joe Public, to look more into them or look at the record. And this is another reason why Khadijah's amazing in the team of support on the comms team. We just flood everybody with content. We got writings from 2005. We have work from, just put it out there. Just expose everybody to the work, fact check. We make it easy for you. We just expose you to all the work. That's why we do the podcast. That's why we do the YouTube. That's why we do the Facebook. That's why we do the Instagram. That's why we do the newsletter. And that's why we show up at your door. And that's why we show up at the forum. And that's why we do pop-ups on Bennett Road. That's why we
is your campaign the one that's running the robocalls also?
I think a couple campaigns are running the robocalls, but I think we're running calls. We run it. We're doing that too.
Yeah, well, that's right.
But the forum versus the debate. The forum is informational, as general in the debate.
How do we get that change? What does the people have to do to change going forward if there is this clamoring for a debate where they can get more information, better information, and more importantly, really challenge the authenticity and veracity of these assertions that are, or even proposals. I mean, I've heard some crazy proposal about taking 295 and putting it underground or something to connect Deanwood back with Mayfair Gardens. And I'm saying as a lifelong, second generation Washingtonian, lifelong Ward 7 resident who grew up in Deanwood.
That highway
was already there. We are not looking to connect Deanwood back with Kenworth Gardens. Okay,
but you know what we're looking to do? The Building Bridges and Connecting People campaign. You know what we're looking to do? We're looking to fill those potholes. We're looking to put rumble strips down. We're looking to put speed bumps and speed humps in neighborhood streets to protect our children. We're looking at alleys, right? We're looking to pave alleys, right? The chairman somewhere, I think. Friday. I think it was Friday. No, at the parade, at the Emancipation Parade, the chairman is introducing legislation for the residents of Hillcrest Drive to get their alley transformed or repaved or something. And that's something I brought to his attention maybe 2 years ago on Westover Drive at that community's block party. So kudos to the chairman for working and helping the residents of Hillcrest Drive.
Work you're doing now without the authority of being a council member.
I started that project without the title of president of Hillcrest.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, it's a lot. It's a lot. But the debate, here we go, back to the debate before I lose my point. People are asking for VJ, and that's what we want them to do. They want to say, VJ, we see you on this panel, and we saw you in that debate, and we're reading your questions, and we're seeing you on the podcast, and we're seeing you everywhere. Even my own competition is like, oh, we see you everywhere. But people are like, hey, VJ, why aren't you debating those people? Or why aren't those people debating you? I said, well, I'm not an organizer of the debate. I just show up at invitations. But I don't have a problem with that. It's a lot of conversation right now on the social media platforms, Ward 7 Democrats, Ward 7, Greater Ward 7. There's a lot of little social media groups on Facebook that help people find issues in Ward 7. And they're having a robust conversation about it now. We had 2 forums on Saturday, and people were kind of disappointed. Not in us, because they enjoy watching us, but we give them what they want. We talk about the issues, and we answer the questions to the best of our ability. And they know, trust, and like that VJ has done the work, will do the work, and they can depend on him getting the work done. And that's what makes me a formidable candidate, right? My 20 plus years of learning how to make government work for people of Ward 7.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, Valerio VJ Johnson, your next Ward 7 council member here on Chasing Gazillions. Not the same as making millions, right? And,
Amen.
And we are thankful that you've taken time to come out and share with us your insights. We certainly are looking forward to hearing more about you and your campaign. Before you go, tell people how they can find you, how they can support you, your campaign. You touched on this issue of, I heard you mention something about some of the candidates are using my tax dollars to fund their ambitions to be the Ward 7 a candidate. I'm Joe Public. It sounds like somebody was in my pocket, and as a taxpayer, what is that about? And what is your campaign doing?
Yeah, I think this election season could cost anywhere between $3 million and $5 million. And I think when they created the Fair Election Program, the city was at a surplus. The city was abundant. But it's not a bad idea. It's not a great idea right now because the city is at a deficit, but the money has been allocated and approved in previous budget cycles. But yeah, I think the Ward 7 election may cost about $3 million. And the people who are running,
whose dollars? Am I paying for that?
Yeah, it's tax dollars. It's tax dollars. Yeah, there's a 5-to-1 match, right? So if you give $50, the government will give the candidate $250. So yeah, I think the shared sacrifice. I don't think they're going to make the shared sacrifice, but I think we can raise the money that we need to win this race.
So you're not in fair elections.
No. I always had reservations about it. I just think political ambitions should not be funded by Joe Public. If Joe Public wants to fund your campaign, Joe Public will give you money. Joe Public will volunteer. How many volunteers we have? We're like 40 volunteers, right? Everybody's touching this campaign. We have a dedicated staff of 9 people, and the main person, our assistant, and our campaign manager. But for the most part, man, we're doing it with Ward 7 residents and committed people who believe in good government. Yeah. And anybody can sign up. You can sign up. You go to VJforward7.com, VJFORWARD7.com. You can call 202-643-6078. You can go to Twitter. You can go to YouTube. You can go to Instagram. I don't know. You can get to us. I mean, one of the things that I hear from residents is they are unable to connect with the Ward 7 Council office. And it's for good reason. The council member is retiring. He had his health challenges. But the first thing we're going to do, man, is make sure that you can be in touch with your Ward 7 Council office. And that's what we're doing with this campaign. Everybody can touch us, right? You can easily access me. We got a public-facing calendar on the website. You know where I'm going to be. Even when we do pop-ups, we let you know via social media that we're out somewhere in the community, unscheduled. So what the vision in the minds of the people that we're painting is that I am accessible. You can touch me. You can meet me in the streets. You know where I am. If I don't call you back first, someone else will. You're going to get an email. You're going to see a tweet. You're going to see a reel. you're going to know that I am live and I'm an active person. I think one of my challengers said to me that I'm active and present. Another person said he's everywhere. Another person said, yeah, VJ, you know, I mean, they're talking about it while they're on the campaign stage with me because they've all benefited from me as well. But that's the kind of council office we're going to have: engaging, responsive, and accountable. And you know that I am committed. You know that I'm capable, and you know that I'm competent because of past results. And those past results help you see the future of Ward 7 being brighter.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Valerio VJ Johnson, everybody. Your next Ward 7 council member here on Chasing Gazillions. Not the same as making millions. And we appreciate that you've come out and shared this time with us. And we look forward to seeing you at the election polls early and often. Well, no, you can only vote once, but still early. Still early.
Very early.
That's right. Still early. All right. All the best. Take care, guys.
Peace.